Good morning, everyone. Here today I'm going to be talking with Pascal Fintoni, who is a marketing expert, and we're going to be talking about how location really isn't a restriction to increasing the reach of your business. If you can use digital marketing and content marketing effectively. The reason I wanted to do this is I work with a lot of fair trade producers and suppliers and people all over the globe and clients all over the globe. And I think it's really a great opportunity for especially fair trade producers to be able to promote themselves through marketing and use the power of the internet and social media to really increase the reach of their business goals. So hopefully Pascal is going to join us very soon and tell us all about content.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to those of you who are watching us live or watching the replay. My name is Pascal Fintoni, as you can tell from the lower third there that I applied. And my job really is to help small businesses, individuals, find their story by creating better content faster. The content really will help them transform their conversion rate on their websites, but also transform the interaction they're going to get on social media and their visibility on the search engines. So I've been interested in content creation pretty much since the mid-90s when I started with my very first website project, which was a very bad one, by the way, but learned since then. And what was very interesting for me was how disproportionate the results you were getting online compared to the effort you have to put in. And nowadays I have a bit of a mantra of my clients where I keep asking for minimum efforts to get maximum results, because that's one the appeal. Although I still apply traditional marketing with my clients, the strong appeal for me with online marketing is, again, how disproportionate the results can be if you do it right.
And I think that's a really interesting point, because I know before I started working with you as part of sort of a 6-month training course, really, wasn't it, on digital marketing, I was definitely one of those people who found the whole concept of sitting down and writing an article for my website and spending time on my own marketing quite stressful, to be honest, and quite kind of overwhelming and not really knowing what to write. But I'm very happy and very grateful to say that what I learned from you really over the last 6 months, I've started to implement for Online Studio, and I really kind of think that this and some tips that we can give the fair traders and clients as well, they can implement it for themselves, because it really has paid off. I have to say I was a little bit cynical, because I am just in general a bit cynical, but sort of doing the 6-month training course with you, and then the way that I do it is I sit down on a Tuesday and sort of implement the strategy that I developed. Some people, I would imagine, maybe like to sit down just an hour a day or something. But what's happened now is that I don't sit down at the computer and go, oh my goodness, what do I talk about? What do I write about? How do I market it? I sit down and I have this kind of structure that I look at and I go, okay, that's what I need to do today. And it really has paid off. So thank you, because in the last couple of months, really, I've had more work flood in than I could ever have imagined.
I would definitely need to do a case study about that at some stage.
Yeah, definitely. Just really to kind of help people out who haven't been fortunate enough to spend 6 months working on this kind of thing. I've got a few questions here.
Sure.
That I hope will give people just a kind of simple overview and again help them to implement their own content marketing. So the first one being, could you tell us a little bit about how digital marketing can help businesses to specifically to increase their reach?
Sure. Obviously, I'm a huge fan, so there will be a bias towards, what I'm going to say about digital marketing. But going back to my earlier statements about, how disproportionate the results can be, There's also the added advantage, which is longevity. So you can create information today that can support your business for many months and many years on occasion, depending on the type of content to come. So you've got that longevity, which is actually, I think, a fair return on effort. Unlike more traditional platforms like newspaper, radio, or even print, where the return is very short-lived because of the vehicle. So longevity to me is interesting, but probably the reason why I am a huge fan is because you can ask for the support of your audience, because nowadays to share on information has been made so much easier by the platforms that, in fact, not only is this information easily accessible by your audience currently, but they could take and play a part in actually making this information reaching out beyond your own kind of network. Yeah. So you have essential possibility to really reach out in, again, a very limited period of time and effort. And that to me is very, very interesting. So now your role, therefore, is to create the content so that creates the condition, if you like, for that increased reach. Because, of course, nobody would knowingly or willingly share poor information or simply information that is outdated or that is repetitive. So there is an element of pressure on the creator to get it right. But again, the results then are amazing, and clearly you are an example of that.
So on that note, how do you think that people might approach to choosing what to write about, maybe to how to approach picking perhaps a topic to write about for their particular business or organization?
Sure. So I would begin by, essentially trying to ask people to find a way to look forward to content creation, which I know is difficult, but you want to find a way to put it in, imagine in your head that somebody is thoroughly enjoying accessing your information. They're having a great time reading it, or looking at it if it's visual, or watching if it's a video. And the reason for that is that the internet can allow us to create quite a rich experience when it comes to accessing information. And I would like people to kind of take on the role of a magazine editor and believe that, what they're doing on their website is almost a virtual representation or digital version of a magazine. They are the editor-in-chief, and they're taking great pride and great joy in creating this information. The difference being that we don't have to release the whole magazine in one go. We can do it one article at a time. But you can look back 6 months on and go, wow, look at this information I've created. But you need to find a way to create a scenario in your head where you look forward to doing it, because you know that people are going to thoroughly enjoy accessing the information. So once you kind of have that image in your mind of this kind of being the editor-in-chief of a magazine, you want to realize that obviously your job is to look after the audience, and therefore the best place to begin with is to start with the audience kind of anticipation or expectation. And the reason why on occasion digital online marketing would fail, or content creation would fail, is because you've kind of not done it often enough. So you've not dealt with frequency as a first obstacle. So we'll talk about that. The second reason is it's not diverse enough. So it's quite repetitive in terms of the topics you're exploring. So the risk is that you're boring people. Not because the tone is not right. It's because, well, you've said that already, or we've heard this before. And then the third element is it's not diverse enough in the media format. So, part of it is to make sure that, because we are in 2016 at the time of recording this video, it would be really to your advantage to mix it up and to have content which are around words, content which using strong visuals, and of course, content using videos. And you've got to kind of mix it up. So that would be kind of what you need to kind of do as the editor-in-chief. How do I make sure that it is frequent enough? How do I make sure that it's not repetitive in terms of the topics that I choose? And how is it diverse in terms of the format? So once you've done that, then you need to kind of plan for those topics in advance. So it would be very risky for me to kind of sit there at the computer and go, right, what am I going to write about today? So I think you want to be planning this in advance. And we use a technique which you'll know well of the content themes. And we take the view that people have 3 levels of interest. And it is your role really as the content editor or the content creator to kind of reflect and even research and ask about the 3 levels of interest. And so we tend to almost do this typically on the wall, like you have behind you with post-it notes, or on the whiteboard, or whatever. We want to stand up and be creative about this. And we tend to draw 3 circles kind of inside one. And the small circle in the center, we call this the core topics. And typically this would be a range of topics whereby you are the expert. So in your line of work, I would expect all to do with branding, ethical business, and that type of thing. So there will be a bunch of words which are in the center called core topics. But if you only talk about your core topics, you risk to be repetitive. So to avoid that, what we need to do is add additional subjects, matters, which we called the associated subjects. So there would be other subjects closely related to what you do that the audience are interested in. And again, you can make a list of those, and you'll find very quickly that this list is much longer than your core topics. So in my case, at the center of my little diagram, there could be all manner of words to describe online marketing, content creation. But on the outside, what I call the associated subject, we could have issues like sales, business development, HR, ICT, web design, and all the kind of things that I know for a fact my customers need to know, but I'm not the expert, and I would recommend somebody else. So that's usually the way you know this is a subject, because you would not actually do this as chargeable work, for example. That's the way to differentiate that. So that's your level 2 interest. And there's a third level if you want to explore it, which is called overall themes. So when you consider your list of core topics, which is your favorite subject, but it's small, and when you look at the list of associated subjects, you should be able to find a recurring theme, almost like a way to summarize them. And you'll be able to write those on the outside. And it's meant to be kind of a small phrase or a couple of words that's meant to capture what this is about. So mine would be things like business development, entrepreneurship, export. They're very, very broad subject. And this diagram essentially is giving you a quick view of what is of interest to your audience. And it is your role to find a way to tackle those core topics, subjects, and themes through obviously a workflow.
That's fantastic. And you just make it sound so simple and easy. And it is, once you kind of implement it in that way. And obviously, once people have implemented that stage, the next stage really to move on to is to actually get into the nitty gritty and do it and produce that content in whichever form you feel comfortable with. Like you said, whether it's video, podcasting, writing,
Sure.
Images. Something that you a term that you have instilled is this concept of star content. So I just wondered if you could give us a little definition of what star content is and why it is essential to this process of content marketing.
Sure. So this is something that I kind of invented for 2 reasons. One was, most of my clients don't have a lot of time for marketing content creation. So that was number one kind of influencing factor. But the second one, perhaps an important one, was that I personally burnt out in 2009 as a content creator. I was doing too much, too often, to the point where eventually I completely kind of, got myself so stressed about it. It became very, I didn't enjoy it so much, but also get to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I just had, that complete burnout, which is rather inconvenient in my industry and my profession. So after a big rest, I went back into thinking, well, I need to go back, as a content creator, but the thought of it already, I'm feeling not happy about it. So I did a research exercise where I interviewed bloggers, I interviewed content creators, and 2 things. I wanted to avoid burning out again, because that's really quite unpleasant. But also I was thinking, actually, how do they do it? Because they all seem to be so busy, and yet they're always creating good content. So I wanted to kind of investigate that. So through the research, I came up with this concept of the star content. And star content, in a kind of superficially, you can look at it, is long form content that you do only once a month. And most people can manage that. And I explained, I had methods. So star content is a phrase I came up with because it will shine on your website forever. It literally is long form, It provides advice which will not date, which means you don't have to go back to it, but essentially it attracts the attention of other content creators and that type of thing. So the star content is what you need, because without it, you will not convert your traffic. And let me explain what I mean by that. There's a lot of advice out there at the moment asking people to create short content because people's attention span allegedly is very short. And that's true to a point, but the risk is if all you do is create short content, there's not enough in the short form, whether it's short copy, just small photography on Instagram, or short, there's not enough in there for somebody to truly understand your values, to understand who you are as a business and as people. And therefore, there's not enough in there for them to take the next step, which is to make contact or make that purchase and so on. So we do need to create long form content, because that gives you the space to really showcase who you are as businesses and people. And that's what helps somebody believe in you and convert. So the star content is long. And the reason why it's also very helpful is because you're being thorough in maybe the issue you're exploring or the question you're answering and so on, which means that you can really allow people to spend more time with you.
And I think you've kind of covered this really, but I was going to ask sort of, about how you might start putting a piece of star content together, and if there's a bit of structure that we can follow, because I know that's been very helpful for me, was to have just a little bit of a guidance structure, and then I could apply that structure to written content, but also to maybe to video content as well. So yeah, just if you've got any little tips on structure.
No, absolutely. So you'll begin by going back to your diagram. What we looked at, the topics, the subject, and the themes, and then what you would do is say, okay, well, for the next few weeks or few months, I want to explore this topic thoroughly. I want to explore this theme thoroughly. But all you are really planning to do is to create one star content that month, and we'll explore how we exploit it after that. And again, because I need to help my clients where time is short, and because I wanted to find a system that was supporting me, there is a template that works really, really well to really encourage people to do it. So to begin with, you want to imagine that you're not really facing a blank screen or the blank piece of paper. You are essentially just completing fields in an online form. So you are breaking down your long form content, the star content, into a small segment. So you don't feel anxious about, oh, look at this, everything I've got to do. So I tend to do it where I already have my little fields or sections on a Word document, and just complete them one by one, so it doesn't feel so onerous. So the first field or box you have to complete is to have a attention-grabbing and eye-catching title. And you can revisit that, as you go about. But that title is what are going to be drawn to the article. And the next thing you need to have is what I call the lead visual. So that visual needs to kind of marry up with the title, and it needs to really take over the width of the page. So if you're on a laptop or tablet or mobile phone, it really takes over the width, and it makes for visual interest. Between the title and the visual, people will use that to make a judgment call whether or not to spend time with you on your website. So it is worth spending time on it. The very first paragraph you're going to write is really designed to explain to the audience why you are writing this article or why you're making this video. You can say this using voice. And that's really quite important because of this kind of abundance of information out there. People are looking for reasons why they should spend time with you and why they should leave. And what we want to do is really, with this first paragraph, is to give them a good reason to stay. And the reason to stay is because there is a real reason behind why you're writing this article. And I call this, the what, why, and what has happened. Mm-hmm. So were you motivated by maybe an interaction with a client recently? Did you see something on TV? Did someone tweet, put a question on Twitter? But there has to be a real life scenario that prompted you to write this article. If you don't put this in, nowadays, people could be forgiven to think this is marketing and then move on.
Yeah.
As opposed to a real content that makes any sense, not one that is kind of designed with some kind of gain at the end. So those 3 to 4 lines of text at the very beginning are so important, which is why I'm spending quite a bit of time talking to you about it today, because without it, I feel that people will not get the reaction that they desire. So once you've kind of written this paragraph and people feel that there's a real reason behind it, you pretty much have engaged them at that point. So the next job is to what I call itemize your article. And again, you can do this on a video. So I want people to use numbers, usually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I want you to itemize the content of your long form article. And you use the number 1, maybe a short sentence or subheader, 3, 4, 5, because this all will happen. Typically, people will not read your article or watch your videos from start to finish. They will skip to the bit that they would find most interesting. So somebody could read an article and see that point number 3 is more relevant to them. So they will actually scroll down and go straight to that 3rd section. Because they've enjoyed that 3rd section so much, they will go back at the beginning and read the full article. And you have to respect that's the way people read stuff. And it's not news. That's how people read magazines and that type of thing. So you would itemize your content. And then once you've done that, the work begins. Number 1, subheader. You may include a secondary visual if you wish, and then write or say what you have to say. And then do that with number 2 to go for. Then that's how you do it. Now, what I can recommend people try and do is to try and batch their work. So you can potentially start content in advance. You could maybe create 2 or 3 long form content in advance and then publish them at a later date. Because what I find is when you write a first article, although it's feels hard to begin with, once you're in the zone, it might be worth your while carrying on with the 2nd and 3rd article and have pretty much your work done for you.
So once we've got all our fantastic star content all prepped and ready to put out at the relevant times, another invention, if you like, that you enlightened me to was about support content and how once you put all that effort into writing your star content, how you might use something called support content to really help boost the impact of your efforts with star content.
Yes, so again, an invention, as you said, just for self-preservation, because the reason why I kind of burnt out in 2009 is because although I didn't have the term for it, I just, with my team, were creating long-form content over and over and over again, almost weekly, daily. And that's just too much. And that's too much for us, but also too much for the audience. What you need to understand is that the audience needs to take time to digest the information from the long-form content. I mean, the style content that works will invite someone to reflect and change the way they think or change the way they do things. Typically leads to action. So what you want to do is typically someone maybe read the article once and we may plant a seed, but they're not going to take action, straight away. And therefore, what we need to do is support them and support the start content with then more bite-sized bits of information that links back to the start content. So, say for argument's sake, you wrote yourself, a long-form article, did a long-form video on how to do content creation. And then, so you will, of course, publish this. And then maybe for 48 hours, you'll be able to promote it to your audience. They may have a look at it and that kind of things, but they're not going to take action immediately. And we need to remind them about, obviously, the start content, but we can't just keep pointing at it because we'll get fatigued by, that message. What we need to do is create bite-sized information, a very short bit of content that points back to it. So, for example, you could maybe find some stats online that demonstrates that content has business benefits. Maybe some stats that shows that people wish they had more time. So anything like this from an authority, you could quote the stats. You can then say, and this is something that is obviously very important to you. Don't forget to check out my video interview or my how-to guide on that subject. So stats from authorities are a lovely way to create support content. So it'd be a very, very small bit of information on your website. You can tweet about it and so on, but its job is points back to your start content. You can also create some handouts maybe, or some free resources. So somebody, has listened, for example, to our conversation and making reference to little techniques and toolkits. you yourself can then create a handout out of that, and then promote the handout. And they say, oh, by the way, if you want to understand how to use that more thoroughly, link back to your star content. So that's a very good way to do support content, resources. And then, of course, you can do news roundups. My customers find that so easy. So all you have to do is essentially have access to news through your online network. And then maybe once a fortnight, once a month, you would do a news roundup. So these are the top headlines in the world of content marketing. And by the way, don't forget to check out, our how-to guide or our star content for that reason. So these are the 3 things that I would do. What is lovely about the support content, it will take you minutes to put together. I don't know if you have a chance to try yet, but star content will take you an hour or a bit more, where support content will take you 5 to 10 minutes to put together. Yeah. And you can do those more often, therefore.
I think I've started, if you like, with the support content, but I'm not quite there yet. And I think that's really important, maybe, is to mention, is that when you are trying to implement these things, it's a bit of trial and error as well, and going back to the resources that you've learned things from, and just keep refreshing your memory. So thank you very much, and I really do hope that that is going to be helpful for the people that look at my website, and clients in particular, because it's fantastic. I think that these steps really allow you to take ownership of your own marketing, and I think that's really important. And I'll certainly be passing it on to a lot of the fair trade suppliers that we work with, because if they can get more direct trade, then that's something that I'm really passionate about, supporting them to really be able to do their own marketing. It's one of the WFTO's 10 fair trade principles, is to empower people in the global south to access different markets in the global north. And I kind of work from a very rural location, so it hasn't been a restriction at all, where I've been based, by implementing this structure really that we've gone through today. So I do hope that's going to be helpful for people, and I will continue to try and improve on my support content. Sorry. So I just wanted to ask if there was anything you would like to finish with, really, and what exciting things are happening for Pascal Fintoni and Associates coming up.
Sure, thank you very much. So, thank you very much for inviting me. I would like to, you and I have not discussed this, but if you're open to the idea, if people have been watching this live and watching the replay are interested, and more questions come to mind, perhaps you and I should get together and do a live Q&A as a follow-up from this session. Which was the platform that suits people. Could be Facebook Live, Periscope, and more. So just as an offer, I know you and I haven't discussed it, but it feels natural progression to move to that. It's also applying the right rules, because of content creation. You need to move from kind of content consumption to content interaction. So that's kind of things that you have to do. With regard to what's happening with me, I don't know if you know this, but on the 1st of July, I'm launching a live video show with my co-host, Leon Howe, who's also one of the associates on the program. And every Friday, 6 p.m. GMT, we'll be exploring different facets of content creation. The show is entitled The Content Marketing Studio, and it's very much a live Q&A session as well. So using a platform called Blab, there'll be some adverts around that. And be launching also a podcast in September, interviewing content creators from around the world. So it's just an easier platform. And then apart from that, just continuing to cause trouble out there by keeping it simple, and making sure that really, no matter the size of the organization, is not a factor in their ability to create content.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay then. Thank you. Well, we'll wrap it up there. And I think the live Q&A is a fantastic idea, because that'll allow lots of diverse types of people to really ask those questions and get into things for what's specific for them. So yeah, let's put that one in the calendar.
Sure, I'll come to you. I was like going to Northumberland anyway, so
yeah, that gives you an excuse to come to the seaside. Brilliant. All right then. Well, thanks again, Pascal.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll speak to you again soon.
Okay then. Bye bye.
And thanks to everybody for watching. Bye bye.
Thank you.